Hey guys, Paul with My Reseller Genie, and recently I've been getting some questions about how to reconcile eBay accounts. So I wanted to do a video showcasing the whole process, start to finish, showing you what statement you're going to need, where to get it, some of the problems that you might run into, and then how to overcome those problems. So I'll share my screen in a minute here, but the first thing I want to do is just review what reconciliation is, why we care about it, and then we'll get down into the weeds a bit. Okay, so first of all, what is reconciliation? Well, big picture, in accounting, reconciliation means comparing your accounting records to a source of truth. So like a bank reconciliation would be comparing the records you have in your accounting system for that bank account to a bank statement. Bank statement's the source of truth. It gives you the activity in and out of the bank account during a certain period of time. It tells you your beginning balance, your ending balance, and using that information, you can compare it to your accounting system. So eBay is essentially the same thing as a bank account. You have money at the beginning of the month, you have money at the end of the month, and then throughout the month, money comes into your account and goes out of your account. So that's big picture what we're talking about here, making sure that we've recorded all of our data and it lines up with what the eBay statement says. So let me share my screen and we'll talk through how to pull that statement that you're going to need to do this comparison. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go to Seller Hub in eBay and then click Payments and Reports. We're going to scroll down to where it says Financial Statements. Now you're not going to click here because that's just going to give you a summary. So click See All, and then it's going to default to the last statement, but you can select any statement for the whole year. So what you're going to do is click download, and then you want the full statement. So summary just gives you a summary of the net for sales, refunds, fees, all that good stuff. The full statement gives you that. It also gives you the full activity detail. So that's what you're going to download. Now, as you can see, our eBay account is not very active anymore because our main focus is My Reseller Genie. But a user was willing to share their statement and let us do a reconciliation on their account so that everybody else could learn, see some of the common challenges in executing reconciliation of an eBay account. So thank you to that user. Okay, so this is what the statement looks like. Now, I want to call your attention to a couple things here. This first page, this is like what the summary statement would show you. A couple things to notice. The first is the date range up here. We got November 1st through November 30th. And then here, opening funds, that's really key. And then closing funds, that's key too. These are just summaries for the ins and outs for the account. But the main three things that we want to pay attention to are the date range, opening funds, and closing funds. Okay, so after this summary page, we have a bunch of details for orders and fees and refunds. We're not going to spend too much time on that right now because we'll come back to it if we need to. So let me share My Reseller Genie. Okay, so now I've logged into My Reseller Genie and I've gone to the Reconciliation tab. Now in the Reconciliation tab, we've got a section for sale platforms and a section for bank accounts and credit cards. So we're going under sale platforms because eBay is a sales platform. Now yours might not say eBay, that's okay. It might say eBay and then your username. It might just be your username depending on how you set up your eBay account in My Reseller Genie. The point is you want to find your eBay sale platform, whatever its name is. And then you're going to click Start Reconciling. Now, remember our beginning balance was $0. We got that from the opening funds on our financial statement from eBay. And I'm going to make a mistake here intentionally because I think some folks might make this mistake. And I want to show you how you can get around it if you do. So beginning date, I'm going to put 11/1, so November 1st. Now the reason this is a mistake is because that was the first day of the statement. And our opening funds or our beginning balance, that was like at midnight of November 1st. So all the activity after midnight on November 1st should appear on our reconciliation. And so what we're doing here is if we put November 1st, we're going to exclude all the activity that my reseller Jeannie has on November 1st. So if that doesn't make sense, just stick with me a little bit and you'll see what I mean. What you should be doing is picking the last day of the prior period. So if your statement period is November 1st through November 30th, then the beginning date that you enter here should be October 31st. But we'll do November 1st just to show you how to get around it in case that's what you do. Okay, so we've added that. Now our we've got this genie bottle icon that's appeared. That's just showing our opening balance for the account. You can also, instead of like picking up at a certain period in time, you can also go back to whenever you opened your eBay account. But I figured a lot of people will probably want to just start at a point in time as opposed to going all the way back to whenever your eBay account was opened. All right, so next step, we're going to click Reconcile New, and then we're going to put in our ending balance. So that was the closing funds on our financial statement. So 571.45 and ending date. Now this is the last day on the statement. So your statement has a date range on it. Whenever the end of that date range is, that's the date that you're going to put here. So we'll click Add. Now, Jeannie, what it's going to do is it's going to look and see, okay, do things line up the way we expect them to? If it does, then it'll say, yay, reconciled, give you a success message. Now, it's not going to be uncommon to have to make a couple adjustments. So the reason for that is because my reseller Jeannie doesn't pull the transfers from your eBay account. So like when money comes from your eBay account and goes to your bank account, my reseller Jeannie doesn't pull that with our eBay integration. Now, if you have your bank account connected to my reseller Jeannie and you categorize that as a transfer from eBay, then the transfers will be recorded. But if you're not doing that, then you're going to have to manually enter in transfers. So that's our first step that we're going to take. So let me switch back and look at our financial statement so we can see what that looks like. And then we'll go back to Jeannie to see how we can enter those. Okay, so on our financial statement, there's a line down here that says payouts minus $1,790.77. So that means that $1,790.77 was paid from our eBay account to our My Reseller Jeannie account. So we need to record that activity. Now, in the case of this statement, that's the only transfer activity that we have to make. I'm fairly certain that charges here, that refers to when eBay has to pull money out of your account in order to cover expenses. So like, for example, if your store subscription fee was charged and there was no money in your account, then eBay will pull from your bank account in order to cover those charges. In our case, we don't have any here, but if we did, we would just take the net between charges and payouts to get our total transfer amount that we need to record. So I'm going to go back to My Reseller Jeannie, and I'll show you how we record this. So what we're going to do is click Add Transaction, and we're going to leave it on Money Out, okay? Now for our general ledger account, we're going to select the account for the bank account where we transferred the money to. So here's our bank account, and then I'll put November payouts eBay as my description, and amount 1790.77. I'm just going to put this smack dab in the middle of November, and for bank account I'm going to select eBay. Now remember, in My Reseller Jeannie you have money out and then money in transactions. That's relative to the bank account. So money out means money is going out of your bank account, and money in would mean money is coming into your bank account. So we've got money out from eBay, and it's going to our bank account here. So I'm going to click add. Now, if you have a bank account connected to My Reseller Genie, it may have already pulled in this transaction. And if that's the case, this is the message you're going to see, and you would just click match. So what that does is it records the transfer from eBay to your bank account and make sure there's no duplicate transactions. Now, if you don't have that, it's not going to give you this message. It'll just create the transfer. So I'm going to click match because we have that here. And so now when I click reconcile, here's my November payouts. So I'm going to match this. And now I'm getting a lot closer, but I still have a difference of $20.66. Okay, so we're a lot closer than we were before we recorded the payouts entry, but we're still not lining up. Now, remember earlier I was mentioning that I was intentionally making a mistake to show you how to resolve it. So I selected my beginning date was November 1st. So let me sort my transactions. So as we can see, there's no transactions showing up on November 1st. And that's because we set our beginning date to November 1st. So Genie said, okay, all the activity on November 1st is not included in the next eBay statement. So this is a problem if there were transactions on November 1st that should be included in this statement. So let me share the statement again with you, and we can look at that example. Okay, so the statement that we're looking at, we want to see, are there any transactions on November 1st? Because we accidentally filtered those out by setting our beginning date to the wrong one. So let's look. All right, it's starting November 30th, so we got to scroll down. All right, so there's no orders on November 1st. There's no refunds on November 1st. Let's see if there's any shipping labels. All right, so no shipping labels November 1st. How about other fees? Okay, so we've got our store subscription fee that came out on November 1st. So let's make sure it's recorded in My Reseller Genie. We can go to our transaction details tab. Okay, so we've gone to transaction details and we're going to go to expenses. I'll just search for November 1st. All right, so it is recorded. That's what we would expect. But going back to our reconciliation tab, once you set a beginning statement, Genie doesn't let you change the beginning date just because this would impact the whole reconciliation model, and we wanted to keep the code base more simple. So how do we get around this if we accidentally put the wrong beginning date? Well, it's really easy. We just need to update our beginning balance to be accurate. So in this case, what happened? Well, the opening funds were $0. And then we had no orders, no refunds on November 1st. The only thing we had going on was a store subscription fee for $21.95. So that decreased our balance to negative $21.95 at the end of November 1st. So all we need to do is change our beginning balance to negative $21.95. So I'm going to update that. Okay, so we'll go back to reconciliation, click reconcile, and now we're only $1.69 off. So at this point, a lot of accountants might just say, all right, well, $1.69, that's not a big difference, so we'll do a reconciling entry. And what that means is basically, instead of spending the time to track down where a really small amount is coming from, so like all the exact transactions that add up to $1.69, an accountant might say, okay, we're going to put $1.69 into our shipping fees account, because on our profit and loss statement, $1.69, going into shipping fees, maybe it was actually supposed to be in transaction fees. Either way, it doesn't make a big difference, and it would be a waste of time to try and track down the exact detail here. So to be clear, this doesn't mean that you're just making up numbers. This is tying your records to the source of truth, so tying your records to eBay's statement, you're just saying to yourself internally, okay, well, maybe we're putting this into the wrong general ledger account, but it lines up with the overall statement, and it actually is such a small amount, it doesn't really matter if it goes into the wrong general ledger account. So if you wanted to do that, let me show you how you would do that. So, all right, our balance is lower than the eBay balance, so that means there's extra money coming into the eBay account that's not recorded. So what we would do is we would click Add Transaction, and then we would say Money In. So money is coming into bank account is eBay, our eBay account, and it's $1.69. Now, for a general ledger account, I would probably either put it into listing platform fees or shipping fees. I'm just going to do listing and platform fees, and I'll say November 2025 eBay reconciling entry. So you want to do a description like this so that you know what you were doing, and just kind of like making an estimation. And I'll just put this again smack dab in the middle of November, and we'll add that in. So then when we go to reconcile, we can select it, and then boom, our statement reconciles. Now let me remove that entry and show you another step that you could take in case you don't want to do that. Okay, now if you don't want to do that, the next thing that I would probably do is go to integrations and then click the import button, select sales, and then we'll select the month that we're trying to reconcile. And then we'll click import sales. So what Genie does when you click import sales is it pulls all those sales, fees, refunds, and it won't create any duplicates because we check against the transaction IDs for all those things. But if there's any that are missing, it'll add those in for you. Let me go and make sure it's completed. Usually it's pretty fast. All right, so I can see upload time is today for all these. So great. Go back to reconciliation and click reconcile. All right, and that's actually going to make up my $1.69. So that did get us to a perfect reconciliation total. But before we select those, I want to go through one more check that you can do, another possible kind of common issue you might run into. So if this didn't line up, the next thing I would do, if you didn't want to do a reconciling entry, is I would look at the first day and the last day of the month. We already looked at the first day of the month and we made a correction there. But the last day of the month, it's possible we might have some differences with the eBay statement based on the time zone our accounting software is reporting in versus the time zone the eBay statement is reporting in. So if we think about this, kind of with US time zones and just real simple, if it's Christmas on the East Coast at midnight, it's actually December 24th at 9 p.m. on the West Coast. So same concept here. You could be seeing a transaction on one day on the eBay statement, but then in your accounting software it shows up on another day. So that could impact you beginning or end of the month. So I would go and look at both of those time periods and unmatch those transactions. Yeah, and this gets me sometimes. So we have two lines here. One of them is positive and one's negative. So this is the sale, and then this is an expense that's attached to it. So when you toggle one, it toggles the other. And if you're going through real quick, it can just kind of mess you up. Okay, so that's step one. I just want to unmatch all of these. And then let me share my statement and show you what I'm doing on the statement side of things. All right, so I'm not going to do this with every single transaction, but we'll go and we'll look at orders. So on the statement, it shows the latest one first, which is convenient for us because we're looking at November 30th. So I'm going to go through each one of these November 30th orders and make sure it's showing up in my reseller Genie. So we'll start off with this $36.14 one. Now let me share my reseller Genie so you can see what I'm doing over there. All right, so 36.14, we do have that one here. So I'm going to select that. And then I'm just going to go through on my statement, I'm going to go through each one of these orders. So 108.64, yes, I do have that. 26.29, yes, I do have that. 160.09, yes. All right, now there weren't any orders on my eBay statement that were not showing up in my reseller Genie, and vice versa. So I know I'm not missing any orders, or rather I'm not having any time zone issues with orders. Now let's go, I've got some fees here. These are promoted listing fees as opposed to shipping labels. So on my statement, I'm going to scroll down to the other fees section, shipping labels. Okay, yeah, so other fees. All right, so I got 77 cents, 235.56, and in my reseller Genie, I've got all of those things. So in this case, I don't have an example of a time zone error, but just know that is something you could run into. So the key there is you just want to look at the beginning and end of the month, look for any differences, and if there is a difference, check and see, like maybe you just need to edit the date in my reseller Genie to line up with your eBay statement. But we didn't have any of those time zone differences, and we already figured out that we had a couple of these fees that were deleted, so we're adding both of those back to our reconciliation, and it reconciles. All right, so I hope this was helpful just to see a real-world example, see some of the common pitfalls and how you can overcome them. This knowledge is transferable to other platforms, to banks, to credit cards. The main key is just getting that statement, that source of truth that you can compare your accounting records to. After that, it's pretty straightforward once you learn some of the patterns I just talked about with looking for time zone differences and that sort of thing. It's really just rinse and repeat across all sale platforms, bank accounts, credit cards. And if you're a reseller who's not using My Reseller Genie yet for your bookkeeping, check us out. We've got reconciliation and a lot of other features that are specific for reselling businesses, and we would love to help you out. See you guys next time.